Hello everyone, good morning. I'd like to share something with you this morning. Did you know that the brain works on habits? That if you change the way you deal or you respond to something that upsets you, if you normally react negatively, and if you change that aspect and you deal with it positively and do it enough times, your brain forms a habit, and a new path is created in your brain that eventually it changes your personality or changes the way you respond to a trigger. Well, that's what I did this morning. You see, last night a trigger upset me, and so when I went to bed, I was emotional and I was not very happy. So everyone has different triggers, correct? So there was something that upset me, and I tried to go to sleep, and because I was emotional, my sleep was affected. I couldn't go to sleep early enough, and when I did finally go to sleep, it wasn't very restful. I was dreaming and dreams, and I was waking up and then sleeping. And how I normally react to this is the next morning I would be tired, I would be exhausted, and my day wouldn't be very productive. So I decided to create a new habit. I pushed myself out of the bed earlier than I normally do. I went for some exercise in the morning for about 40 minutes. And then when I came home, I sat out in the sunshine, and that's when you saw my dog. And the rest of the day was pretty productive. And although I am tired now because my sleep was not restful, I feel that if I do this enough times, this would form a new habit, and eventually I think I would be able to deal with emotions much better. Give this a thought and try this if you have issues with emotions and regulating, or rather dealing with your emotions. Not every one of us are the same. Everybody walks a different path, and I always feel that if you have certain issues, accept it, understand how you are, accept it, give credence to your issues, and then walk your path while you manage these issues. You ultimately will get to your goal. So now that I've shared that with you, come join me make this yummy childhood favorite of mine. It's a prawn and radish curry, and I used to love this growing up when my mom made it. So the ingredients here would be about 2 stalks or sprigs of curry leaves. This is about 4 cloves of garlic, sliced thick, and then 1 green chili, and 1 medium-sized onion sliced. That's that. And then I have here about 1 kilo of prawns. Then I have 1 medium-sized radish that I have cut like so, but of course you can cut it any way you like. Then we have our mixed spices. This is my mixed spice, and then these are called fenugreek in English, and this is fenugreek seeds. In Malay, Bahasa Malaysia, it's called halva. Some coconut oil. You can use any oil that you like. And then I've got some salt. This is pink Himalaya salt. About half a cup of coconut milk. No, I'm sorry, this is 1 cup of coconut milk, but really coconut milk is it's up to you how much you want to add in the curry. You can always add less if you want it to not be so creamy. And that is what I have. And then of course, for any like fish curries or seafood curries, we usually use a little bit of tamarind. And this tamarind I have squeezed and kept in the fridge. I always do that because it's so convenient that way. I don't have to get my hand all mushy with the tamarind and the seeds and everything. So this is a convenient tip that I would share with you. Don't keep it for too long though, not for a month. Maybe for about 10 days, it's still quite fresh. That's a tip for me. And then I am also going to use a tiny bit of sugar, brown sugar, or you can even use jaggery if you want to. That is up to you, and you know how you want to. I feel a little bit of sugar for a seafood curry, especially a prawn and radish curry. It just brings out the flavor. So I'm going to use a little bit. You don't have to if you're conscious about adding sugar into your curries. Do remember that when you squeeze your tamarind juice, use boiled water or really clean water. Don't just like in Malaysia, we can't take water out of the tap and drink it. So use clean water because you're going to store it and you're going to keep it. So it would be advisable to use boiled water in my case, or water from a filter or so on. And okay, that's with regards to the tamarind juice. Besides that, we have fish curry powder, and then we have turmeric powder and chili powder. I buy store-bought chili powder and turmeric powder because I think it's quite tedious for me to like grind it on my own. I do grind my own individual seed powders like fennel powders and cumin powder and so on. But as far as combination powders like these, like this is a powder that is pre-mixed and made and then sold in stores for seafood curries, and also for curries that have tamarind as the ingredient. So I haven't gotten hold of a proper recipe yet. Of a family recipe is what I'm out to get. So when I get one, I'm going to go and see my aunties, and my mom has, I think her memory is a little fuzzy, so I need to work at that. So once I get a family recipe of seafood curry or even a meat curry, I will share that with you guys. I'm going to add some oil, about that much, and I'm going to put in the spices, the fenugreek and the mixed spices. Of course, I had heated the pot at first and then heated the oil, and now I'm going to put in about 2 teaspoons of mixed spices. And always remember that when you make curries where you have tamarind in it, we always have fenugreek seeds in it. So fenugreek seeds are halwa in Bahasa Malaysia, and yeah. So now I'm going to just let it heat up and start to splutter, and when it does, then I will put in the next ingredients, which will be this one. It's beginning to crackle or splutter. Those are the words normally used. Remember that when you temper, you should use not as high heat as this. You should use slightly, I'm turning it off, slightly medium heat. Okay, now I've just put in this chilies, onions and curry leaves. And then I'm going to give it a quick stir. So the onions and chilies are getting a little bit brown now. Then I'm going to put in 5 tablespoons, this big spoon like that, of fish curry powder. Lower the heat. I'm going to turn it off because my electric stove tends to get really hot. So I think this is the 5th one. I think I've forgotten now how many. I think it was probably the 5th one. Okay, give it a little bit of stir. You must be careful that the bottom of the pot doesn't burn. It tends to happen. 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder. This tends to happen in my electric stove, not in my gas stove. 2 teaspoons of chili powder. I like roasting my powders in a little bit of heat like this. As you can see, I'm kind of just roasting it in the pot. But if you can't take the pungent smoke or whatever that comes out of here, you can skip this step and straight away add some water inside. For me, I like doing this because I feel that the flavor, that smoky flavor of the curries, it really, not smoky flavor, the smoky fragrance of the curry powders roasting in the pan, although there's a little bit of oil already from the beginning, it really brings out the curry, the flavor of the curry. So I like doing that. So I'm doing this a little bit in very, very low heat, just letting it sort of just dry roast a bit, and then I'm going to add the water. I'm adding another 5 or maybe about 400 ml of water because I feel like it's supposed to be a nice curry, so I need more gravy. And I'm going to put that 1 kilo of prawns in here. So now that I've added it, I'm just going to wait for this gravy to come to a rolling boil. So now the gravy is boiling. This is like a good boil over here. You can just remember that you can always add extra water or extra curry powder. I'm not talking about the fish. I'm not talking about the chili powder and the turmeric, but I'm talking about the pre-mixed fish curry powder. You can add more and less depending on how thick you want your curry to be. So I've just added the radish, and I'm going to close this on high heat for about 4 minutes for the radish to get to a nice nice semi-cooked stage, or maybe even a like almost 3/4 cooked stage. I should have added the salt, so I'm just going to add a full teaspoon of salt in here, maybe a teaspoon and a half. Yeah, I should have added it earlier. So now I'm just waiting for it to boil and I'm waiting for the radish to cook, at least 3/4 cooked, and then we can add the tamarind juice and the prawns. So it's been about 4 minutes. Keep it a little longer if you feel that the radish is taking a longer time to cook. It all depends on how fast your radish cooks. So this is like semi-cooked. Okay, this is a good stage to put the prawns in. You see that it goes through, but not as easily. So that means it's like half cooked. So now I'm going to add the tamarind juice first. I'm going to add about this much. So let's see, about half of this cup. Okay, add it in. Now the heat will lower the heat once you add some fresh tamarind juice inside. I'm going to wait for it to boil, and once it boils properly, or like a rolling boil, then I'm going to add the prawns. So now you can see that if there's a rolling boil, you add the prawns. You can add the prawns in, the whole 1 kg of prawns. Then cover and cook it for another maybe about 3 minutes this time. Okay, covering it, and I'm going to let it cook for about 3 minutes. So now the prawn has been cooking for about 3 minutes. In fact, I think I kept it for a little longer because I wanted it to be well cooked. Seafood cooks very fast. Okay, look at that. It's cooked, and let's check the radish. Radish. It's cooked through. So now I'm going to add the coconut milk. You can add about, this is 1 cup, but it's up to you how much you want to add depending on the thickness of your curry. So I've added about 3/4 of a cup. I think I want it a little more creamy, so I'm going to add all of it. So that's 1 full cup of coconut milk that has gone into this gravy. So just a reminder that tamarind juice and coconut milk, as well as salt and sugar, these are up to your individual taste. If you want your gravy sour, then you add more tamarind juice. I put it into the fridge already. And if you want your gravy to be a nice creamy gravy, like I kind of do, you can add a larger quantity of coconut milk. And if you wanted it more salty, Likewise, add a bit more salt. As for the sugar, this is not always done, but I'm adding just this much, just half a teaspoon of sugar, and I'm going to add it into the gravy. And my curry is kind of done. I'll just show you the end product. So there you go, a yummy prawn and radish curry that I used to absolutely love as a child. So thank you everyone in joining me today in my little chat about how we can change the way we deal with emotions by just creating new habits or forming new habits, me included, and also joining me in my little trip down memory lane, prawn and radish curry. Thank you everybody. Here's Shakila Shanmugam signing off. Bye.